Excuse me. Welcome to Jet World video blog. This is going to be our first broadcast, our first episode, and I think what I'll do is I'll just spend the time just telling you a little bit about myself, so you'll know exactly who you're getting into. And after that, we'll go into quickly kind of what I see the future of the blog, kind of what my shtick or my spiel is going to be. Basically, I'm a 33-year-old man, obviously. Live in Austin, Texas, the capital of Texas. Very artistic and creative community. Very cool place to be. Originally from the state of Indiana. Grew up loving sports, racing, you name it. All things that young men in the Midwest dream about and do with their time. I did it. What do I do for a living? Well, I've been fortunate enough to act and make some films by living in Austin. Not only do I act, but I write and direct. I've only been paid on a few occasions. I only have a couple high-profile projects on my resume. One is Disney's The Alamo, shot in 2003, released in 2004. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a box office disaster. So that film may not be famous, but it will certainly be infamous because I believe, based on budget and opening weekend amounts, it could go down as the greatest box office bust, if my math is correct. Also, most recently, I play myself in a movie called Baghead, directed by Jay and Mark Duplass. There's four main leads, and then there's my character. So I'm not quite in the main four, but I play a significant role in the film. Baghead played at Sundance, all over, Tribeca, you name it, all the major festivals. Sony Picture Classics picked it up in last January of January 08, and they released it nationwide. And I believe it'll be coming to DVD sometime in the next 6 months. So, I loved working with Jay and Mark in Baghead. That was a great little film. Was proud to be a part of it. About me, I also, acting doesn't pay the bills. I have a martial arts school here in Austin. Right now we're about at 50 students, which, given that I started it 4 years ago with 5 students, I'm pretty proud of our progress, and I'm proud of my students, and I'm proud of what we're doing because I really believe martial arts changed my life, made me a better person, gave me some direction and focus, and I hope to spread that to other people. I'm not teaching people who want to be in the UFC. Obviously I could be a launching pad for that, but that's not the goal at our school, although I do love the UFC. But I'm just giving people hopefully a better way to live and think and just to process the world they live in. And I also do sales, outside sales, residential sales. Not going to name the company or the product, but I'm fortunate enough to office out of home. And then if I have to go out in the field and meet with clients, potential clients, I just do it right from the house, and it works out groovy. I am married to my wife, Adelina, originally from Ohio. She is a Hispanic woman who speaks no Spanish. I think I married the only Mexican in the United States who cannot speak a lick of Spanish. I speak more Spanish. And we've been married since 2006. Yeah, it'll be 2 years this December. We have a son, Diego, who will be 3 in January. Do the math. He came before the marriage. No problem. We were in love at the time, and we're happy to have him. He's a wonderful little joy. And our daughter, Mia, will be 1 this December. So she was not born out of wedlock, whereas Diego was both conceived and born out of wedlock. Okay, interest, martial arts, obviously, movies, writing, directing, acting, walking my dogs. I have 3 big dogs, protect this home when I'm not here, and they're very sweet, but I wouldn't want to be the guy who actually came in here when we weren't here. Love playing fetch with them, taking them on runs, working out. And also, I'm a big-time soccer fan. Love following European soccer, the Premiership, stuff like that. And that brings me to what one of the channels will offer is reviews of the only 2 video games I play. That'll be Pro Evolution Soccer 09 and FIFA 09. Those are the only 2 games I play over the 12 months until the next versions come out, and those are Konami's, respectively, and EA Sports. Also want to talk about what I consider over time the pussification of America, how sterile we're becoming, how everything said must be politically correct, and you can't offend anyone, and if you say the word fuck at work because you dropped the staple on your foot, you got to go meet with human resources and sign a document. They've been warned, and companies treating their employees like they're 5-year-olds instead of 30, 40, and 50-year-old adults with kids of their own. I want to talk about politics. I'm not that interested. I'm only interested enough to keep somewhat abreast of the situation with us in the world, but I have come to the conclusion that, all politicians, they just wear a different face. Everything seems to be the same. But hopefully, with this election coming up, one of these candidates, whoever gets in there, can bring some change for us in our right here at home, and also change for our presence in the world. We need someone bold. We need someone like Kennedy or like Reagan, who's not afraid to be bold. And notice that one's a Democrat that I mentioned and one's a Republican. We need an Abe Lincoln, someone to stand up despite what the companies and the lobbyists and the advisors are telling him. We need someone to stand up, be a man, and put America in a better place and not worry about the financial consequences to his or her campaign. I made a movie called Pussification of America, so I want to do kind of a doc blog on different things I consider to be within the Pussification of America, not being able to paddle your kids at school, teachers being neutered, not being able to do their jobs because they can't enforce any kind of discipline, just things like that, Back in the Old West, when two guys had problems back in the 1800s, even the early 1900s, two gentlemen had a problem with each other. They stepped out on the street with a Colt 45 and fired until one was no longer standing. Now, I don't think that's the world any of us want to live in, but now, if I were to even get into a fist fight with a gentleman for insulting my wife or almost hitting us on the road because he's driving like a jackass, I would go to jail. Or if some dude attacked me at the mall and tried to take my wallet, if I whooped his ass in that occasion, I would go to jail. Other topics, so we'll talk about the state of the world. We'll talk about the Pussification of America. We'll talk about current events. We'll talk about any news on the acting front or films. I'll review films that I've seen recently and either loved or hated. I'll talk about projects I'm working on. I'll talk about cool people I've worked with in the industry. I'll talk about cool martial artists I've worked with or had the pleasure of meeting or even sparring with. I'll talk about my family. I'll talk about my kids. I'll talk about my video games. And another thing I'll do is, we'll just keep it real. I believe I am the very thread of the common, average, everyday man who lives in this country, which the common, average, everyday man or woman makes up the bulk of the population of this company or this country. So, and I believe my views are sometimes a little out there, a little racy. When I say racy, I'm not saying racism. I'm saying a little bold and just not necessarily in line with the world we live in. And, I have a lot of friends from all over the world. A lot of my students are international. So, I don't just form opinions without having conversations with folks. And, we'll do some cool things. Like eventually I'm going to put martial art minutes up where, we'll do, I'll do it on a more proper camera in a more proper setting where I'll have an uke or a student who I can work on. And I'll give you real brief self-defense breakdowns in a minute or less. Just something you can use on the street. So even if you never walk into a dojo, if you ever do find yourself in a tough situation, maybe my martial arts minute can help you survive or get out of the situation. So we'll just have fun. And I know I'm going to do a blog this week. Later in the week, I want to talk about the piss poor driving that exists everywhere, especially in Texas. It is ridiculous. And manners in general. Driving is really one big activity of having manners or having a lack of manners. It should be something we do with consideration, not only for us and those in our car, but everyone else on the road. And 99.9% of you are not driving with any amount of manners, and they're not showing any consideration for themselves or the other people on the road. And those are the guys, because when they about run me off the road and I've got my kids in the car, those are the guys I'm going to be like it was in the Old West. Pull over at the next stoplight and say, you know what, dude, you're driving like a jackass. You almost ran me and my kids off the road. There should be some accountability here. Let's go in this alley here and sort this out. Am I in the mood just to beat everyone's ass? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if that guy is driving like that in that moment, chances are he does it all of the time. And maybe just once, if he got his ass kicked versus getting a ticket in